From the dark that enshrouds the olden days, the lore about who ruled over Niflungaland, about the feast that was hosted by King Didrik, and the beginning of the hero show was given to us by the Thidrekssaga. So here now, something new from those olden days. Earl Hornbogi was bright of countenance, and he was the handsomest, and had the noblest appearance of all men. He was well proportioned, swift, and alert in all kinds of danger. He was curly-haired and of medium build, because he was most often among those who were considered almost giants when compared to other men. He was, however, exceedingly strong, and it was still more in his favor that he was fierce in the use of shield, sword, and spear. He was also such a good knight that he never came into a battle or a single combat in which he parted from his horse with dishonor. He was modest and taciturn most of the time, but at an assembly or council he was well spoken and eloquent, and he spoke his utterances with a loud voice. He was wise and quick of mind and noble of thought, so that the longer he thought about a decision, the wiser it became. He was brave, bold in all aspects, and quite valiant. Earl Hornbogi had his shield and all of his armor of a brown color. His weapons were marked with a hawk of gold. And before the hawk were two birds flying, and his son Amlung had the same device. This color and this device indicated his knighthood, and as often as two birds flee before the hawk, just as often Earl Hornbogi rode after his enemies with such a swift mind and a fleet horse that it could be compared to the flight of a hawk. And the brown color indicated his nobility and courtesy. Earl Hornbogi was so powerful and popular that stories about him went far and wide throughout the lands. He owned wide lands and large castles, and many knights, and quite enough money. And King Didrik of Bern heard all this, and for this reason sent word that he should come to him. He sent his best man, Hildebrand, on this mission, along with his good vassal Heimir. Amlung, the son of Earl Hornbogi, was like his father in appearance, and in hair color and in all aspects. And he was no less of a man, nor was he weaker. He was an excellent knight, bold and incautious in danger and in battle. He always wished to gain fame or to die. He was a great man of daring and ambitious. He always thought it good to be praised, and for this reason he wished to prevail on all things, both in bold deeds and in humility, in generosity and willfulness against himself. He endured many kinds of testing for his reputation. Sistram of Wenden was fair of appearance, light-colored and without prominent features. His face was fair and well-shaped. He had bright eyes, straw-colored hair that was somewhat curly, hanging down thick to the neck, and his whole body was white, tall and not stout. His hands and feet were so fair that no one had ever seen a man better limbed. And he was agile and strong. He was the most ambitious and courteous of men in all respects. He enjoyed play and games, drinking, eating, and he was prominent and quick of decision, valiant enough in battle, generous, modest and warrior-like. Sistram had his weapons marked in this way. His shield and all his armor were as green as grass, and there were dragons painted on them. The upper one brown, and the lower one green. And this mark was a token that he had been saved from the dragon, and how much honor he owed King Didrik as long as he lived, because the king had saved him from the dragon's mouth. The green color of his armor showed that his best sword was green in color. Fasold and Ekka were so much alike in appearance and build that one could scarcely tell them apart. They had blonde curly hair and were fair and broad of face, and a reddish beard that fell down in curls. They had fair eyes, a stout neck that was not long, great and strong shoulders, and they were not so tall as they were amazingly strong, both in the arms and the legs. They were powerful and good knights, and they were well versed with the sword and the shield. They were proud and haughty, unfriendly, taciturn, well-mannered, proud of fine weapons and clothing, popular, staunch, brave, stubborn, and ambitious in battle and in all kinds of testing of men. Fasold the Proud had his shield and all of his equipment like gold, marked with a lion in red like King Didrik, except that this lion turned across the shield and was not accompanied by a crown. Ekka, his brother, had the same device. As we already have said, the brothers had a lion on their weapons, because they would rather die than flee any kind of danger. And the red color signified bravery and bellicosity. Thetleif, the son of Beetulf, had rather thick, straight brown hair. He had prominent features. His nose was high and thin. His face was even, not thin, but rather long. He had good eyes and a good appearance, even though he was not fair of color, except when he became angry. Then he became as pale as an ash tree, and he was the tallest and strongest of men. His character was as follows. He was the happiest and most modest of men with every child, and he was not the least of men in entertainment and games wherever he came. He spoke boldly before noble men, even where he was unknown, and he did the same before large groups. He was bold in all respects, so that one could scarcely find his match. He was strong and agile in all games, hard and grim against his enemies, both in battle and in duels. He was obstinate and energetic, so that his equal could scarcely be found. And Thetleif the Dane had his weapons marked in a dark blue color. And on his weapons was the animal the Germans call Alpandyr, and which the Varingja call Fil, inlaid in gold. He had put this on his shield, because Sigurd the Greek had ridden an elephant when Thetleif had met him in battle and gained the victory and much honor. There were few marks from blows on his dark blue shield, so that it had the same appearance as it had had when it was first made, and it held up well, so that it would not fail him in any kind of danger. He had gold on his shield, because his mother was of noble birth. Vildifer the proud and impetuous had dark hair, but a light face that was long and well-shaped. He had a somewhat hooked nose and the eyes of a hawk. He was tall and broad-shouldered and well-formed. He had fair and strong hands and strong arms. He was the most agile of men and very vigorous. He was most accomplished in all kinds of games. He was wise and a great giver of advice. He was even-tempered, authoritative, and bold when he was in command of other men, and skillful and courteous when he was supposed to serve. He was a little tricky at times, the hardiest in battle, and gifted with victory. Vildifer the Bold marked his armor in this way. On his shield was painted a boar and a bear in dark red. The shield was colored yellow, and the outer border was dark red. All of his other armor had the same colors, and the sign of his armor was the wild boar. This is called Vildifer in German. He was called this because he was never with his kinspeople, nor with his foster family, but rather always with foreign chieftains. And the wild boar is the boldest of all animals, and the worst to deal with in the hunt. But the bear was on his arms, to show that he distinguished himself as a bear, when he freed his comrade Vidga. Vildifer had his arms painted differently from the other warriors, because he wanted to be recognized as far as one could see. But even more men were present in this hall. So in the next part, you'll get to know the descriptions of Herbrand, Gunnar and Högni, Sigurd and Sifka, Heimir and Hildebrand. Thank you for tuning in, and see you again next time, back here at Sagenheim.